what's up? Check out this blunt and honest review from the Jock and Nerd Podcast. That's us. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
And he's the rug boy.
What's up, guys?
Jock and Nerd. All right, let's get to this week's review. We are discussing a movie. And the movie, you saw it in the title, is Alien, the OG from 1979. Anthony.
Yes.
How did we end up on this movie?
Well, as Imran would like to say. Next week, we are, spoiler alert, not spoiler, teaser alert.
Yeah.
We are reviewing Alien Romulus since it's coming out.
Yes.
And figured might as well review the movie that started it all. And Alien Romulus takes place between the events of Alien and Aliens. So
yes,
it all kind of works out. And we've never talked about, we've obviously talked about Alien numerous times, but we've never done a full-on Jock and Nerd review, a brutal, honest review, or whatever Ruggs likes to call these things. So there you go.
Fantastic idea. Perfect timing. I'm just going to give you spoiler alerts for a 45-year-old movie. I don't know why.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
But yes, this movie released June 22nd, 1979. We had just passed its 45th year anniversary. So the timing is great. In fact, they re-released this in the theaters last month around the 22nd for the 45th anniversary. So you could have caught it in the theater last month. On Rotten Tomatoes, the original OG Alien sitting at 93% tomato meter, 94% audience score. The movie made for $11 million and finishes with a box office of $184 million. Does really well. Of course, this is directed by Ridley Scott and written by Dan O'Bannon, based on the story by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. Ridley Scott had done one movie at this point. He wasn't really into sci-fi, had no experience with visual effects. All right, going into this. The cast, also producing, there are some familiar names. Walter Hill was one of the producers. You know Walter Hill, right, Anthony? He's
The Warriors.
The Warriors. 8 Hours. He's a director, producer, writer. He did produce Aliens and Alien 3. He's done a lot of stuff. He's produced a lot of the Alien movies. So started way back in 79 with the original one. The cast of this movie includes Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. This is Sigourney Weaver's first movie. She was only on Broadway. And she was the last to audition. So it's crazy. Young Tom Skerritt as Dallas, Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, Veronica Cartwright playing Lambert. You got Harry Dean Stanton as Brett, John Hurt as Kane, Ian Holm as Ash, young Yaphet Kotto. I love Yaphet Kotto as Parker. And then this dude Balaji Badejo playing the actual alien in the costume. He's a very tall individual, not an actor. Again, they just found him at the pool. And they were like, you're really tall. Do you want to do this? And Helen Horton as the voice of Mother. Anthony, tell me a little bit about your history with this movie in particular.
Yeah, this was a movie where I was exposed to Alien in the arcade, and I think maybe a cartoon I might have seen. I remember playing the Alien game in the arcade and loving it. And then being like, I want to see the movie. I want to see the movies that were out.
That was a shooting arcade game, right? Where you had Uzis and you were. I played that. That game was great.
Moving from left to right.
Yes, that was fucking great.
It was an awesome game.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see the movies, and I don't know how old I was. I had to have been less than 10 years old, maybe around 10. And went to Blockbuster, the original Alien. I remember seeing the cover with the egg with the green underneath it.
Yes.
Watching that. Threw it on, and similar to my experience with other movies at the time, Predator, Halloween, Terminator, RoboCop, I was deeply disturbed by what I was watching on screen. And this was not the kids arcade game that I was expecting, and it was I vividly remember the chest burster scene and just being like hiding behind my mom, like, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. And then the rest of the movie just being like covering my eyes as I grew up, I saw Aliens and saw some of the other movies and really started to appreciate this movie for what it was. So Alien is like in my big four of sci-fi movies from the 80s that I've just grown to really love. Alien, Predator, Terminator, and RoboCop. Alien didn't start in the 80s. I understand that, but around that era. So I've always liked Alien. I remember being super hyped about Alien vs. Predator, and I've gotten hyped about Alien stuff as they've come out every time, even though continues to disappoint me.
Yes.
And Alien just continues to disappoint.
Maybe that will change next week.
Hopefully. I did see the panel. So yeah, always have liked Alien, and I think it's one of those movies that as you grow older and watch, you really, really appreciate. But scared the fuck out of me as a kid. So
sure, as it should. Ruggs, what's your history with this movie?
It's kind of a checkered. When did Aliens come out? When year
86.
86. So by the time it was on video, probably a year later or 6 months later, right? Because I think I saw Spaceballs first, and the chestburster scene in Spaceballs happened.
Yes, they parody it.
And
hilarious.
So I had seen that there, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Whatever. And then a friend of mine who was like a latchkey kid that was really into movies and like worked at a video store, I think. He's like, you got to watch Aliens. It's James Cameron. The guy did the Terminator. And I'm like, all right, we're doing it. So we rented it and we watched it. And I saw Aliens first. So I saw Aliens first, and I thought it was like an action movie thing. So I didn't really ever see the first Aliens till like maybe a year or two later.
Yeah.
And I think I was like 13 years old or something. Yeah. And I remember it was like really slow.
Yeah.
Like just nothing's happening. What happened to all the James Cameron shit? Where's like, get away from her, you bitch? Where's all that stuff happening? So I was a little bit underwhelmed, but I've watched it a few times in my adult life, and I've always been, and then I watch it this time, I've always been blown away by this movie after that. It's like, I think that when you're a kid, you don't have the attention span and you don't have the appreciation for the art of filmmaking. And then you take into consideration the time when it was made and what was made before this.
Yes.
And it's just mind blowing that someone like Ridley Scott comes in, no experience, gets this team together, and they create this piece of art, and it's great. And so I came a little bit late to the party, but I really do love this movie.
No, I'm just the same as you, Ruggs. I saw Aliens first. In fact, I vividly remember having nightmares the night I saw Aliens about those. And as much as it was an action movie, it also scared the fuck out of me because there's some jump scares. I'd never seen creatures like these. But I'm glad you picked this, Anthony, because I am not as familiar with this one. I've watched it maybe once when I was a teenager. I've seen that chestburster scene several times, and I know all the lines, but I wasn't that familiar with this original one. So watching it again now was kind of like watching it the first time, and I was able to appreciate it more. So it was a great pick. And of course, this movie, like you said, launches 5 sequels, video games, novels, toys, and you got to love the 80s when R-rated movies turn into like cartoon shows that turn into kids' toys. They did it with everything. It's a fucking great thing. It should still be doing that.
One of the great things about watching movies again is not only that you're watching them and sometimes you'd watch them on TV and they were edited. Like sometimes you don't watch it on cable.
Right.
I didn't have cable throughout my entire, I had it in patches.
Yeah.
So there was times that movies would be on and you'd watch it and it'd be heavily edited. And not only that, when you watch them now, you can watch them with the subtitles.
Yeah.
So you can like not miss any lines. You know exactly what he's saying with the, not only that, it helps you keep track of the characters' names because they usually tell you who's saying what.
Yep. When they're off screen.
So it just gives you a more well-rounded, you could hear, sometimes there's stuff coming in on the radio that you don't hear or stuff that's on the TV that's in the background. And that's almost like storytelling elements.
Yeah.
So it gives you much of a richer experience when you watch a movie another time. So I always like going back to the older movies and watching them again with the subtitles on as well.
Anthony, what is Alien about?
Alien is about the trucker ship, the Nostromo.
The Nostromo.
They're carrying ore. It's basically a bunch of truckers on a spaceship. They're just getting their work done. They are bringing back some ore to Earth, and they get woken up from their sleep from a distress call. And the distress call, they go to visit the distress call, and they encounter an alien that gets on the ship, and terror ensues, and that's it.
Very straightforward, right? Almost a little
pretty
bit
straightforward, but there are some twists throughout the plot that keep you engaged, and it's not just a through line.
Can I just say, holy shit, does this movie hold up 45 years later? Wow. It holds up really well. Anthony, what'd you think after rewatching it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely, it all holds up. I mean, the only thing that, might be a criticism is, the alien doesn't move the smoothest at some point in some instances, but they really does a really good job of hiding the alien and doing the whole Jaws thing where you don't see the monster very much and makes the monster even more scary.
It's terrifying.
But yeah, I mean, it holds up it pretty much all holds up. The alien design is by H.R. Geiger and is an iconic design, and everything about it. I mean, the plot, the story, the acting, all that stuff holds up. I mean, maybe you don't get like the craziest kills in the world, but I think the biggest thing that, besides just the contribution of the alien to the world and Sigourney Weaver being a thing is just the amount of tension in the plot. Once the thing really gets cranked up, it takes its time, which is kind of refreshing. But once the movie gets really cranked up, when the alien latches onto the dude's face and then chest bursts out, I mean, it's just chock full of tension throughout the entire movie. So yeah, I loved it. I loved it then. I loved it now. I think, just as an aside, I think one of the fun things about watching this movie now is I know that Ash, played by Ian Holm, turns.
Yes.
But, at the time, no one knew that. And watching it now, knowing what he does later, you can see all the little things and how the little like strange shit he's doing and how it's like, because he's got a different mission. So I think that's really fun too.
Yeah, if you notice, he like grabs milk. He doesn't really eat. He's always
stopping them
from doing things. Yes, he's the one who lets them in.
Right.
He tells her that when she's like, "How are you doing on that translation?" He's like, "Oh, mother's collating."
Right.
Still he's stalling for time. It's fantastic. And little glimpses when you watch it back that he does.
One other thing too, before we move on to like you guys, is we've all associated Sigourney Weaver, Ripley as the lead, but when you watch this movie, I noticed, and this is something that's known, but you don't really know who the lead is until probably more than halfway through the movie, because they don't do the normal thing where it's like the lead they're spending time with, and you're going, oh yeah, this is the lead. This movie, no one's really the lead. It's just kind of you're hanging out with all of them, and you don't really understand that it's Ripley until Dallas dies. Yeah. But like little things before that, like she's the one that's like, nope, we're not breaking protocol. You're not getting on. I don't care. Like she slowly evolves into like this leader, and it's cool watching this character who we know becomes what she is in Aliens and other stuff. But you're seeing like that the beginning of that character, but it's not obvious from the beginning that she's going.
They're not presenting her as some kind of like know-it-all, everything. No. She has to rise. No. Like she does have good instincts. Right. She knows what the right thing to do is. And she's not aware of the machinations of Mother and this android and all of these other directives that they have. Mm-hmm. And so she's just trying to do the right thing. And obviously there's a bunch of other layers with other players there's the different class system going on. Mm-hmm. They get paid less than the other ones. And they're just, deliberately, fucking with that shit. And then who gets to go out, who gets to stay. And there's all that, like they were talking about drawing straws at one point. Yeah. And so there's all of that going on. But Sigourney Weaver's character has always been she's been right the whole time.
Yes, she was right from the beginning. All you had to do is listen to her. They never do, and they get fucked.
Well, she's also calling out earlier on too that she's like, because Ash is a new scientist. I don't know if you caught that, where they had a scientist, he was replaced last minute with Ash, and she's like, I just don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
So she's catching on that there's something up, but obviously no one knows that he's fucking drinking milk and spitting it out his asshole. Like
covered in jizz by the end of this whole thing.
Right.
But I love the fact that they're blue collar workers. I think Roger Ebert, even in his review, commented like how different it was to have such older people in this as a lead in the cast. Sigourney was like 28 at the time. She was the youngest. But
also think about like the history of that time, like how space was presented on the big screen up to that point was always very clean. Star Wars, Planet of the Apes, Star Trek. It was all very sterile. It was all, you know, these like clean cut people. And now you're just like, no, we're throwing fucking, we're going to have dudes like Rugboy mentioned that are arguing about like if they're going to get their bonus or not on this fucking flight.
I love that moment when they're trying to fix the planet and she's like, how long is it going to take? And he goes, 17 hours, tell her. He goes, it's going to be at least 25 hours. Yeah, Facono. That's typical union workers just padding it out. We need the overtime. But yeah, it's gritty, it's grimy, it's dirty. Even the way they talk, it seems very like natural. Like there's a lot of they're talking over each other. They're just hanging out. Just the whole aesthetic. I was trying to like imagine seeing this in '79 for the first time.
Well, this comes off the heel of Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey, right?
No, Star Wars came out 2 years earlier. 2001 came out like late 60s, so it'd been a while, but you see all of that influence in here.
Well, I think that Ridley Scott was very influenced by Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, there's a lot of Kubrick shots in this movie.
And just the aesthetic that Kubrick had, that it just felt real. Yeah. And it felt like the design. If we're going to talk about the art direction, the art direction is a miracle in this movie.
Yes.
And one of the things you can tell is that Ridley Scott, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but everything has there's when they get to the alien planet, they're pumping the air full of fog and mist too, like wet mist. And that's glistening off everything. Yeah. And that's making it everything seems so wet and alive. And there's like a funk and a fog that they're always in.
Smell it.
And there's just so much detail, but they're in the dark, right? So the lighting is not the greatest. The lighting is actually, they're fighting with film grain the whole time.
Yes.
But all these little details are popping out because everything's wet.
Yeah. No, it's
amazing.
I love the texture of the grain. I love the lighting and the 70s aesthetic. But again, it seems timeless also. It really still holds up. It all feels real.
It looks more real. It feels more real. It feels, not that it's realistic, but it feels real.
Right.
It just feels like it has its own reality, and we can believe that reality.
It builds the world away.
If we're going on the design element, I'll piggyback on that with, you guys mentioned how real it looks and how gritty it looks, but there's also an uncomfortableness to it because H.R. Geiger is a fucking perverted motherfucker.
Let's talk about Geiger. I love Geiger.
You have the alien whose head looks like a fucking penis.
Yes.
You have the eggs that look like vagina, like a birth canal. You have the face hugger, which rapes your face.
Yes,
and then impregnates you, and then a violent there's all these different elements that are phallic or rapey. And I'm saying that it's not saying that to joke around. That's what they're going for. Or these violation of things that are happening, like Lambert's death. You can see the tail going up between her legs, heavily implying that it fucking rapes her. Yeah. There's all this uncomfortableness. So when the alien, when you see all this shit, you're like, oh my God, this not only is it's uncomfortable and it's scary because it violates the whole being of the alien, violates everything that as a human you want to be around. Yeah. It's just it creates this whole. By using that design, it creates this whole vibe of fuck, this is creepy as shit. This is the worst.
And I don't think that we had seen anything on screen that was biomechanical.
Yes, that the way it looks.
So it's
grown.
It's organic, but not. It's synthetic. It's robotic. It's got seams, and it just looks like it's not quite organic, but it's almost it could look like a machine. It looks like a robot a little bit. It's really crazy looking.
I mean, you got the they're throwing the alien mouth. It's all KY jelly. That's what they were using. And
a lot of KY jelly.
When Dallas is in the fucking ducks, and like he grabs the gel, like it's like cum on the ground, right? Like it's like semen, like it's all this like stuff that you're like, oh fuck, that's gross.
That's Geiger's sick fucking mind, right? And it's all in his artwork. Now, here's a couple of movies that helped this movie get made. First of all, it was Star Wars. Once Star Wars got big, the studio was looking for a space movie, and they had this script sitting on their desk. So they jumped on it. And Geiger, we can thank Jodorowsky's Dune, the movie I've talked about, the greatest sci-fi movie that never got made, that had concept designs and storyboards floating around Hollywood for years. The writer, Bannon, was working on Jodorowsky's Dune. That's where he meets H.R. Geiger. And that's where they connect.
Him and Mobius were doing all the art.
Mobius and Geiger were doing the art. And I don't know if Mobius did any design. I think Mobius designed some of the spacesuits and shit.
I think that Geiger was the Harkonnen designer.
Oh, that's right. They had him design all the Harkonnen stuff. And some of that stuff is used later. But it's so great. Jodorowsky's Dune connects these two, and we get this fucking crazy alien that is never before seen on film. And yeah, there's commentary on rape, on motherhood, on pregnancy, but it's all in his deviant little mind. And it's fucking, and the fact that you don't really see this thing a lot makes it so terrifying and so fucking perfect.
So I think it'd be good to go through like some of the more iconic alien stuff. And I think that, the first thing to start with, obviously there's the eggs and all that shit.
Oh, before that, yes.
Well, where are you going with it? Are you going with the fucking space jockey?
Yes, the space.
Yeah, so they have to respond to this signal in space. Right. They take the lander. They land on the planet, and they go in and they follow the signal to this crashed derelict spacecraft.
Yeah.
Right.
And they go inside, and that's when you get to see all of like the H.I. Geiger stuff like really come alive. Like the inside of the ship, it's wet, and it's got all these bones. They used actual bones.
He used actual bones. Geiger airbrushed that whole set and the space jockey by hand, by himself.
Well, what's also cool though is there's a little line there, and this like builds on Ripley, because we all thought it's a distress call, and then she decodes it, and she's like, no, this was a warning. So like this was a warning. This wasn't a distress, or this wasn't a call for help. It was a warning.
Then, remember, she's like, I'm going to go warn them. And he's like, don't bother. By the time you get there, it's going to be too late. Yeah, he's delaying the translation. He's constantly stopping her from them doing what they need to do. The scale of these sets are amazing. Ridley did this little trick a couple times in the movie. So the space jockey scene, you can kind of notice it. He didn't think it was big enough, and they didn't have any more money to make it bigger, the set. So he put his kids and the cinematographer's kids in the astronaut suits. And those are his kids walking around to make the thing look even bigger. But apparently those suits didn't have good ventilation, and everybody kept passing out in the fucking suits.
Oh my God.
Until they put some breathing apparatuses in there. But those are his kids walking around. But the effect of this makes it seem fucking huge. And is this the engineer from the later movies?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
We learned that in the other Covenant and the other things.
So crazy. This whole set's amazing. Then you get to the scene where Kane finds the eggs. And this is another great scene. And he's like, there seems to be a barrier. There's like a mist on top of it. I found out they use lasers they borrowed from the Who, the band who was rehearsing next door, to create those lasers.
What a brilliant idea.
Yeah, because it was perfect. Like seeing him stick his hand
like an
in
ocean.
Yes, because you could see the mist float around and it kind of makes a little surface.
And I think what they're getting at there is when he cuts through that blue mist, it's like cutting through the placenta. And it's like, now you've activated the eggs.
Yeah,
the eggs are dormant. Yeah.
Oh, also, that's Ridley Scott's hand in the shot where they're looking at the side of the egg and you kind of see movement inside. And Ridley was like, yeah, I just had my hands in there and I was doing butterfly hands. So then the thing opens up and you get kind of the first jump scare.
Right.
Is the face hugger attaching to the face. And then they come back and Ripley's like, 24 hours protocol. And Ash just fucking lets him in right away. That should have been a red flag.
Well, Ash lets him in, but Dallas is insistent. Like, I'm the captain, let him in. But she's all like, well, no, you're not the captain anymore because you're off the ship. So I'm the next one in charge.
Should have listened to Ripley.
Right.
Then the scene.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. The guy just got attacked by an alien being. Why let him in the ship?
Don't let him in. Yes. The fuck are you doing? Do not let him in. but they do, and they cut the helmet off, and it's the fucking look of this face hugger. Like these creatures look amazing.
Yeah.
So creepy with the finger design and the tail around the neck, and
it's fucking gross.
The brilliant part of the blood being acid just throws so many wrenches into your plans when you're trying to fight this thing. Like, you can't kill it, you can't stab it, you got to be careful. And it's this practical thing, and it's amazing. What's the before we go to the next scene, I have to ask this one question.
Yeah.
Who brought the fucking cat? Why is there a cat in fucking space? You know how much money they must have spent on this mission? They were allocated did it have its own cryo tube where they're like, no, bring your pets. It's fine. This only costs billions of dollars.
Yeah. The cat was a horrible idea. Whoever brought that on,
I feel like the cat was working for the alien. It fucking lures Brett over there, and then it's like watching him get killed with glee.
Yeah, you team up.
Fucking cat.
You can't trust a cat.
There's always, and like in Aliens, there's Newt. There's always like a little helpless creature.
There's a difference between Newt and a cat.
Yeah, I guess.
Jesus Christ.
It's a pet. She was feral.
Newt was a pet.
She was feral. She was like a feral.
No, I think moving on, I think we go on to the most iconic scene in one of the most iconic scene in all in cinema. So, Kane, the alien eventually falls off, and Kane seems to be fine.
Yeah.
And he's having dinner with everybody, and they're basically like, we're going to have dinner and we're going to go back to sleep. Like,
go back in the freezerinos, into the freezerinos.
And he's complaining about, he starts saying that the food sucks or whatever. And then he starts coughing, and Yaphet Kotto is basically like, oh, is the food that bad? Like making a joke. And you just get this scene, which, just gripped audiences back in the 70s and still grips audiences, where just Kane starts just violently convulsing, and people think he's having a fucking
seizure or something.
Seizure, right? They're trying to stick a
spoon
in his mouth, and you have that chest bursting scene. And I'm sure Imran was going to say this, but I'll take it from him. When they filmed that, they didn't tell the cast that the blood would squirt up like that.
That's correct.
So what you're getting is a real reaction, especially from the actress playing Lambert, because she didn't expect blood to get thrown on her face.
She's like, what happened? Yes, right. She's screaming. And
you just get that scene of the craziness of the fucking chest burster coming out, which as a kid, that was a scene where I was like, oh my God, this movie is not what I thought it was going to be.
I can't imagine like going back and watching that for the first time.
It just got real.
You had no idea what's coming. You've seen some.
Well, he reacts so violently. Kane, what's that character's name? Not Kane, but John. No, what's the actor's name?
John Hurt.
John Hurt. I mean, the way he reacts. I mean, you can. Yeah. It feels like it hurts. I mean, it's just the way his body is moving. It's like, oh my God, this hurts.
It's panic. You're fucking terrified, and apparently it smelled really bad too, so that added on set. But those reactions are amazing, and they're 100%.
Why did it smell bad?
Because they were
using like animal parts.
Yes,
as it was bursting out of the check to simulate the intestines and stuff.
Yes, they use lots of animal meat. Like when you see them dissecting the face hugger, that's a sheep kidney and shellfish and oysters. And then it was like tripe. They used tripe and other things. So they had and it smelled. And then even the bones. There's a whole documentary, by the way, on Freevee called Memory, The Origin of Alien. And I was just reading so much about this. Like they got fresh bones for Geiger to use. He thought they were going to get old dried out bones, but all these bones still had marrow and shit. And that whole set smelled
of dead animal
of rot and shit. Cause they bought fresh bones and they had all this fresh meat for these scenes, but you can't beat this practical tactile nature of these things. Like it just looks great. And the sound, the squishing sound, and the wetness and the moistness is fucking wild. So, people are losing their shit. The moistness.
Jesus.
It's a very moist movie.
It's a very moist movie. There's always shit dripping.
Yeah.
Like what I didn't understand when Brett follows Jones the cat and he gets killed. First of all, there's a crazy shot where he's just like standing up with the water dripping on him for a long time. And I'm like looking in the background. I'm like, is there something there? But they lead you on. They think something's there. And that's not even when the shit goes down. But I was like, where's this water? Are they in a spaceship? Where's the water coming from? That was confusing.
Yeah, Brett's death is, when you really understand, oh, God, that alien's already morphed into something
huge.
Yeah,
huge,
he finds the molted shell on the ground.
That's the hint where you see the shell. And in the director's cut, that scene is a little bit more extended, where the first cut of the alien you see is actually when they pan, they show a shot of where the water's dripping, and you just see the alien hanging.
It's just there, but you can't tell, right?
No, you can tell. It's just like, but it's just like very disturbing because it's just standing, it's just hanging. But here they cut that out, and you just see the alien drop, and it's just like, oh.
I mean, the classic tail drop down. Like, how many times have people done that now? There's so many things in here that you see so many times, and I think these guys did it first. I mean, I think a lot of this you didn't see this shit.
Well, that's also where you then understand the like double tongue piercing thing, which also makes the alien just another it's like an evil French kiss.
Well, the mouth in the mouth,
right? And just fucking pure like that whole scene is just.
What does that do exactly?
You see it ever? It just like rips out your throat or rips out your heart or just kills you.
Oh,
well,
so
it punctures. It literally comes out like a piston with teeth.
No, but what is it? Where does it usually go? Is he trying to go into the throat, into the face, into the
I don't
heart?
think I don't know where.
Does it matter?
Yeah, I don't know if it matters. I can't. You can't really. I think he hits his head and then, or maybe his body, but then it pulls him up. So then he like disappears, and then the next scene you cut to is just Yaphet Kotto's character just being like, it's big.
It's like a man. He's like a man.
I just how did they get from so small to so big without eating anything?
Don't think about that.
It's a fucking alien, bro. It's an alien physiology.
I found that to be an issue, but like, yeah, I can hand wave that away.
Ash says things like, "Oh, it's already adapted to our atmosphere. It's the perfect organism," as he says. That's why. That explains everything. You don't have to ask any questions.
I think the alien. So from what we've seen in this movie and then later is that it adapts to the host of who it comes out to, and it becomes similar to that host. So like. Oh, you can see if you look at the old sets of this and you look at the old alien, the underneath that dome is actually a human skull.
Oh,
so it's
you can see through it there's a human skull.
Right. But yeah, I don't know how it I mean, basic biology would say it can't grow, like it needs to ingest something to grow that big, but it's an alien, so whatever.
It's an alien with acid for blood. It doesn't. Oh yeah, this whole back half is amazing, where everyone's getting picked off.
My favorite scene, my by favorite I mean my scariest is when Dallas is in the ducts.
Yeah, so they figure out this alien's traveling through the air ducts, and Dallas goes in there with a blowtorch, and Ash is like, I don't know, things hate fire. Now he's actually trying to help, which is kind of interesting when he's supposed to bring this thing home, and he is just. What's his name? Tom Skerritt is literally just lit with that light he's holding and the flamethrower. Like, it's so dark and spooky. And you get the invention of the motion tracking device, which goes on in the second movie, has a couple of but this is the first version of this thing, changes in micro air density.
What happens is he's trying to flush this alien out, and then that device. They spot the alien, but then the device goes haywire for a second, so he doesn't know where the alien is. And by the time it turns on, the alien's beelining towards him, but we don't know where he's at because he's in like multiple levels of this fucking.
Yeah, these ducks are going everywhere.
And I think what makes it, you got he's in the dark. He's only got the fire. He's by himself. We've seen what the alien can do, right? But then you've got the beeping, so it's like. But then I think the thing that really puts it over the top is Lambert's character.
Lambert, he's like, you gotta get out of there.
Yeah, you gotta go.
It's coming right at you.
She like makes that so fucking scary. Yes.
It's almost the equivalent to what are we gonna do now, man? Game over, man. Sort of, not as over the top.
No.
But it has that same kind of tone. But yeah,
that's a line that people say as like a joke. They don't say it. No one quotes her as like.
I know. But she's like, get out of there. Dallas is coming right for you. And then he just fucking, the thing just pops out of nowhere. Is that where he extends his hands? Which kill is that? Yeah.
That's the one where the alien, he turns over and the alien, he lands and it's in the dark behind him. And then he points the fire at him and it goes, and like the screen just goes black.
You're like, oh shit.
Fuck.
Great jump scare.
That's still the music when the alien like spreads its hands out as you see it. Because you can kind of see it. If you know you're looking for it, you can kind of see it in the dark behind him. But then when he turns over and it's there, it's like, oh, fuck. And then I still, even watching it this time, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
fuck.
it's great. And then Yaphet Kotto just has the flamethrower. He's like, we found this. That's all that's left.
That's all that's left.
So then this is when Ripley discovers, she goes to Mother, the computer discovers that Ash was ordered to return with this alien and the crew is expendable. And that was the number one priority. And then everybody he freaks out, tries to kill her. And we find out.
That's another thing too, is he tries to kill her, but it's in like such a fucking disturbing way, right?
Yeah.
Like he rolls up a piece of a magazine and sticks it down her throat.
Yeah, he's gonna just suffocate her, shove it down. I was like, what are you doing? What are you even doing?
Yeah, that was such an odd way to kill her.
That's gonna take forever. Like you're a robot.
It's like I can breathe out of it. It's got a hole.
Yeah, she's just this is like a tube.
But it's just so it's just another, again, it's like the way this movie's very creepy. Like he does something like it's a creepy way to try to kill somebody.
And I can't imagine, again, the audience first time seeing this, throw in this fucking wrinkle that this dude is a fucking robot the whole time. Like, what a crazy fucking plot twist.
Apparently people were throwing up not only during when the alien chest burster comes out, but when Yaphet Kotto hits his head and his head comes off, and people are like, "Oh fuck!" Like people did not expect that to happen.
There's a lot
that was pretty brutal, but like it's also followed by one of the worst shots because not that the shot is bad, it's that they should have cut away.
Yes.
Like, because when they put his head, they struggle to put his head back on the table.
Yes.
And then they just directly cut to him being a human.
Yes.
They needed to cut to something else and then cut back to that. So it wouldn't be such a
it's the one thing
awkward transition. So that was like probably one of the worst shots.
The one thing that doesn't hold up is that, and I read the reason was when they made that cast, like it shrunk. They didn't think it was going to shrink. And they were going to use that for the talking scene. But then, I don't know why they didn't cut away and cut back. It's a smash cut from the.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's just an editing thing. That would have been helped so much in editing if they just had a face reaction of everybody looking at him.
Like, oh, and then they come back and it's Ian Holmes' head coming out of the table. Like you wouldn't. It's very weird that they left that in that way.
I think that scene though, again, watching that as a kid for the first time, like it just adds to the creepy vibes. You're like,
oh yeah,
wait a minute, there's a fucking android spitting up metal. Like what is going on in this movie? Like imagine seeing that for the first time. You would have never expected.
Yes,
this guy's a fucking android, and he's got semen running through his veins.
He's just covered in jizz by the end. He's sweating milk for some reason, and you're like, "What the fuck's going on?"
That's the first hint where you're like, "He's sweating milk."
Why are you sweating milk? But again, I love what they do, what Cameron does with it in the second movie with Bishop. They've established that there's always an android on these missions or whatever. But at the time, I can't imagine. Like, it was fucking crazy, and there was a lot of food in that set too. It was like onions and all these different tubes and mayonnaise and shit. So yes, they reactivate his head, and he kind of admires the alien. He tells them, "You can't kill it.
It's the perfect organism.
It's the perfect organism." So they're like, "All right, we're gonna blow up the ship. We're gonna get out on the shuttle." They couldn't get out before because there was 4 of them. The shuttle doesn't hold 4. Now there's only 3 of them. And then Parker and Lambert, while gathering supplies, get killed because they're making a shit ton of noise, throwing those canisters around. I was like, "What are you guys doing? You're causing a lot of commotion."
Where when Parker gets like killed, and then you hear Lambert scream over the internet, it's like that's fucking disturbing too.
Yes, because she's running, and you can't. Again, the stuff that he leaves to your mind.
Right.
He doesn't show. Your mind easily fills that in, and it makes it so much more terrifying.
Have you ever seen the extended deleted scene of that kill?
No.
So in the extended scene, you see the alien like show up, and I'm glad they didn't do this, but the alien shows up, but he's like crouched, and they didn't really know like how they wanted the alien to move, so he crab walks towards her.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, and then he that's why like when he slowly creeps up, it's because he had crab walked toward her.
Oh, and then
it doesn't look great when he crab walks toward her, but it's good that they cut it there, and then he like rises up.
Like you see the full body guy like once briefly maybe, and it looks pretty good.
The only thing is I think that scene could have been better, like some better kills.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were fully comfortable with how to show the alien. So they were like, we got to leave it a little bit ambiguous. Because the 2 kills before that the tension in those scenes is pretty good.
And then
this one, he just knocks out both of them in the same scene. Like he knocks out Parker.
Yeah.
And like, why is Lambert just still standing there while he's like killing Parker?
I can't get around.
Right.
Frozen in fear. I was like,
NPC mode.
Just fucking run. So now Ripley is the only one left, and she starts the self-destruct sequence, and she's got the fucking cat. You got to save the cat. She can't get back to the shuttle, so she runs back, has to try to turn it off. It's too late.
Well, she can't get back because the alien's blocked.
The alien's in the way. But so this whole starting the self-destruct, running into the alien, turning back, trying to turn it off. She's too late, and then she has to come back, and the alien's just gone. What do we think of this whole sequence? Like, was it really necessary? It seemed like they were just filling time here a little bit.
I feel like they had to create some kind of a running clock.
Yeah.
Urgency.
That's true. She had 10
but,
minutes.
You know, the things that happen in this movie sometimes are dumb. Like the door to the ship is open and you don't think that the alien's going to go in there.
Yeah. I'm like, you're not going to, but it also makes it so she has no time to check the shuttle. She's got 20 seconds to get in, strap in.
That's a good call out.
So maybe that's why. So
it is a little odd that they do 2 running clocks in the row.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen 2 running clocks like ever really in most movies. So it's like, it's kind of, they play it twice, which seems kind of lazy, but then it's unique because I'd never seen it played twice. To this day, I don't see very many movies where they do a running clock twice in like 5 minutes.
It's a clock within a clock.
Right.
Yeah.
But they did telegraph it, right? They're like, they shut, even when you can read it when she was setting it up, that they have 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, you have to shut it off.
Yeah, you can't
restart it or whatever.
Right. You can't abort it. You have 5 minutes to still abort. So she gets away in the shuttle, and the thing explodes like 3 times. It's just kind of strange. It's like 3 explosions. She's sitting there watching. And like you said, Anthony, the double running clock, I don't think you saw that in movies. And I think Ridley here invents something we see a lot now, but you didn't see then. The fourth act surprise, which is kind of a thing they do in a lot of these alien movies. And I fucking love it. But now you almost expect it. Mm-hmm. She thinks she's safe in the shuttle, and she's stripping down to her fucking underwear, which is very weird.
I got to call out real quick.
Yeah.
This is probably the main criticism, and I'm fully aware that other people have said this, but I'm also going to my biggest criticism is like why they couldn't get Sigourney Weaver a size of panties that were her size.
Ass crack is hanging out when she turns around. What are you doing?
Why do they have her wearing child's panties?
Yes. It was very awkward. I was like, oh my God, she's stripping down. I was like, look at those tiny little underwear.
They're such a small. I mean, was that a thing? Were girls wearing tiny ass underwear in the 70s like that?
Oh, maybe it was.
Well, I guess. Was it a 70s thing? Was it a future thing? Was it what they thought people would be wearing in the future?
Yeah. Maybe she grew past her underwear while she was in space.
Yeah, maybe she was.
Maybe she got taller. Yeah, you're right.
She had a growth.
Sleeping for a long time.
It is awkward, and I'm like, wow, look at her fucking butt crack just hanging. What is this? What is this?
It's not flattering too, because it's like not the best. It's like it looks like a plumber's crack.
Yeah.
Yes, right. It was very strange, but we see the Xeno, the alien, kind of nestled away, and he's just chilling. I think
he looked like he was awkwardly stuck behind that stuff.
I felt like he was napping. I think he was tired from his birth, and he was just
from what I read, there were like stuff. The reason why he's like hiding and slow, that point is that he'd gone through his life cycle and he was dying.
Oh, he's already dying.
Because there's deleted scenes prior to this where you find what happens to Dallas and what's the Harry Dean Stan's character's name?
Kane.
Brett.
Oh, no. Oh, that's Brett. Harry Dean Stan. Right.
So you find out there's a scene where she's looking around.
Yeah.
It's a great scene. You should watch it. It's where she finds them and Brett is already like, you see half of his body in an egg. Like he's being morphed into an egg.
Yes.
And then you see Tom Skerritt as Dallas also like half being morphed into the egg. Yeah. And he's just like, help me.
Yeah.
help me. And she like has to kill them by burning them alive. But there was this whole like side thing where the alien captures you, and they didn't use this in future movies because obviously there's a queen in Aliens, but the alien captures you and then incapacitates you to basically fucking morph you into an egg, and you become your body becomes like lunch for the.
That's
like
how
your body becomes the yolk for a fucking face hugger.
For a face hugger, and that's the cycle continues
right, and that's how it's killed. So it cycles. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of stuff online that the reason why the alien's like moving like that is because he's like dying.
He's on his last leg. Oh, right. Interesting.
What do you think is the passage of time in this?
It's got to be a couple hours, right?
From when they wake up, it's like a day.
I would say like a day.
Most.
Well, the Yaphet Kotto says what 17 hours, so you know it's at least a day. But then I'd assume it's got to be like 36 hours, probably.
So when they come back from the mission, and the guy's, laying down with the face hugger on him.
How long is he? Yeah, how long is
that? Is that like a day? Is that and then
I'd imagine it's got to be a day because they don't launch They don't go up into space until like it's still on his face when they go up into space.
I feel it's like 72 hours at max.
At max, it's got to be like 3 days.
Yeah.
At max, I would say it's probably even more. I'd say it's like a 36 to 40 hour time span.
Yeah, that seems about right.
But yeah, that's why they had the alien. But I do like, even though the alien's like moving slow, I do like that he's like camouflaged into a nook.
Yeah, and he's right. That shot is great where she's fixing the thing and his head is right there.
And his hand just goes.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, he's right there the whole time. The smooth head is right there.
Creepy.
I'm like, oh, he's just chilling. Oh, he's tired. Oh, he needs a nap. Isn't that cute? So she sneaks into a spacesuit, straps herself in, and then does the thing now that's at the end of every alien movie is flush him out of the airlock. And he hangs on, and she's got the thing the grappling hook. She shoots at him. And then he gets caught under the burner. And she lights him up. Doesn't burn really, but then kind of just floats away.
I think that the cable snaps.
The cable burns, and then he finally floats away. And then I love at the end when she's like, she's doing her log, and she's like, everybody else is dead. I'm the only one left. And she's like, I'm on my way back. I should be there in 6 weeks. Not knowing that you will be in that tube for 57 years, Ripley.
Yeah.
Until aliens, until James Cameron wakes you up again. But the cat is also in there with her, so I guess the cat shares. Fucking cat survived.
That's the start. That's the start of Ripley. Like it's fun watching that now and realizing, all the adventures she would go on, but that's that character's origin story.
Yes. You had no idea what she was. But even if you want, like, watching Aliens first, you didn't even really need to watch this movie because you totally get a sense of what she's been through. You
didn't need to watch this movie, but if you watch this movie, like the movie is Aliens is a much better movie if you watch Alien.
Sure.
Because you see what she was, and you see the evolution of what the aliens become.
Right. Just the fact that there's more of them,
right?
And it just becomes even. And you see what she went through. But yes, alternate castings. Meryl Streep was considered for Ripley, but her partner John Cazale had died, so they didn't talk to her. Helen Mirren.
Would you have liked Meryl Streep as Ripley?
No.
What do you think, Ruggs?
Well, Meryl Streep is a good actress, but I think that it's good that we have Sigourney Weaver because she's known for like these genre films like Ghostbusters. And
sure.
So I think that it's cool that we have kind of our own like high caliber actress in these films.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think Meryl Streep she would have gone on to do a bunch of other stuff. This is not really her bag.
Sigourney is just like the perfect look, the perfect fit for this Ripley. I can't imagine anyone else playing her.
Yeah, she's a little bit more hard to peg down.
Mm-hmm. She's also got like a certain, even though she's skinny and she's wearing little kids' panties, she's got a certain physicality to her that, the other two just don't, she's tall.
The height helps, definitely.
Right? That height, I think, helps a lot. And she's got just a presence to her. It's where it's not like, she's not like, like overly manly or anything, but she's definitely got like a sternness to her where you believe when she puts her foot down, she's like, no, like I'm fucking staying to my convictions here. Like this is, you believe, I don't know if I'd believe Meryl Streep could handle an alien.
She speaks with authority like right away, and you're like, oh, this chick knows what she's talking about.
Right.
And the story is Sigourney was like late to the audition. She went to the wrong room, and she ran in, and they looked at her, and she was the last one to audition, and they were like, that's Ripley. That's fucking Ripley. And she only did Broadway.
There was apparently a storyline that they were thinking about doing where she and like Dallas's character had a love story.
Oh.
Which is why she like maybe gets a little more upset when he goes. But I like that they didn't do that because you don't need the love story between them two.
Yeah. No, they're co-workers. They're all just working together. And the fact that they, it's a female hero protagonist, and then what Cameron does with the Ripley character in the end to make her even more badass. Like, I feel like that's pretty different too. For 79, probably didn't get a lot of that. The poster, remember the classic poster you mentioned, Anthony, with the egg? You notice how it's like a hen egg? Yeah. It's like a poultry egg. Well, originally the eggs were going to be hen eggs. It was the early concept, and that's what they went with the poster. But I always remember going, that's not what the eggs look like. This is like a fucking chicken egg, but these eggs look different. But you still got it. It made.
Yeah, they never had that green glow in the movies.
Yes, and they didn't have that either, and they look completely different. But the sound of the eggs and all the fucking animal parts they used, it's fucking.
Can I ask a question about just the aliens in general?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think that we needed all these time jumps? I think that they were superfluous. Like, we didn't need to travel all these different times in the future. You could have just had the story continue from here out. No,
well, you mean from the first to the second one?
Yeah,
57 years.
Well, that's a good point. I think. If you watch the director's cut, the reason why they have that time jump of 57 years is because they give Ripley a daughter. And then,
that's right.
And yes. Ripley, because Ripley was in cryosleep and got lost because of the alien, she basically lives her entire life without ever seeing her daughter as like an adult. And her daughter dies while she's asleep. So then that leads into the fact that she's so motherly towards Newt. So that's why they did the time jump. Because they wanted to have that time of her, the storyline of her like losing her daughter because of the alien.
I do remember that. The extended cut of Aliens is also,
and they wanted to give it enough time where then they'd gone to the derelict planet and built out a colony.
Right. So there's more of them, and there's a queen now.
Right.
And they,
but there's I think they, at least for the first two, they thoughtfully thought through. Say that twice. The time jumps. I don't know if in the later films, the rest time jumps.
I think that's what hurts the movies is that they jump around in time a lot.
Yeah,
and you don't feel that cohesiveness.
No,
that, I never understood. And even though you've explained it to me and it sounds like a good idea, I still don't think they really actually needed it. But yeah, it's interesting.
But that gives Fede Alvarez a great reason to place his movie in between. Give them a big chunk of time to tell more stories. Kind of like what Star Wars.
That's a lot of time that passes.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see, which alien this is. Will there be any mention of the Nostromo? Does anybody know what happened?
So when I was there,
San Diego,
hanging out with my boy Fede.
Oh yeah, you were hanging out with
just name dropping like that. He said that you don't have to have seen the movies to enjoy Alien Romulus, but he says if you do have seen Alien and Aliens, you'll see things where you're like, oh shit, that's it. Oh, like it'll make it a more enriching experience, but it's not necessary.
I'm glad we watched this before watching that movie because now I'm going to be looking for things and it's going to be fucking great. Catching all these Easter eggs. But yeah, it could just be. Yeah.
How do you feel about the new, not to make this about Alien Romulus because we haven't seen it yet, but they went in a different direction for the new heroine. So Sigourney Weaver is this really tall, kind of like strong, and we have this very diminutive new female lead. That's kind of interesting that they're kind of breaking away from Alien 1 in that way. They're not trying to recreate Ripley, basically.
Yeah, they haven't really nailed the female lead since, right? So Resurrection, they did Winona Ryder, who was a female android.
Yeah.
In the AVP, they did like Sanaa Lathan. I don't know if those aren't actually canon, so who
right?
Yes, but then the Prometheus and then Alien Covenant, like they had female leads, but I don't think anyone remembers them.
Noomi Rapace is one of them.
Yeah,
I don't remember her.
The Alien Covenant one, no one remembers who that lead is. It's a female, so they haven't really nailed it since they, so going with a diminutive. I mean, I think that actress is pretty up and coming.
Yeah, Isabella Merced's going to be big. The rest of this cast is very
not Isabella Merced. I'm talking about Kaylee
the girl
Spain.
from Civil War.
Yeah,
she's the photographer girl, right?
She was in Pacific Rim Uprising. She was the one that built her own Jaeger.
Well, I guess like if you casted someone that was physically imposing, I think it would just be inevitable that you're comparing to Sigourney Weaver. You're still going to compare it, like if you're doing a female lead. So yeah, I will see.
I feel like it's like the trendy thing now. Like a lot of your Emilia Clarke's and like even like the Tomb Raider. They made her kind of smaller. It's just the trend of this.
But that's the great thing about the Alien series is that yes, it is a staple of sci-fi. It's horror. It's sci-fi. It's action. It's everything, and it's got a female protagonist.
So well, also there's also the fact of like the aliens and like their birthing and all this stuff. So it's like you have this evil birth versus like this, a woman who's kind of like a pure, birth type thing. So you've got that like dichotomy there.
Yeah. Violent forced birth and a forced impregnation. Look, all I know is there going to be a cat in Romulus. There needs to be
I would say
kind of innocent creature that needs.
There's definitely a cat.
There's going to be some kind of thing that you have to protect. That's a plot thing also. But it looks like in Romulus, there's a lot of face huggers, and they're coming out of different things.
The thing, too, about Romulus, from what Fede was saying, is like what they're doing in this one is like each of these characters is very close with another character. So they're not doing like they're couples, but they're all like brother-sister type vibes.
Yeah.
And the story of Romulus is like the two brothers and one dies. So like they're playing with the whole aspect of like dealing with this situation where you're close to someone and then you lose them like in the midst of all this shit.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
So it's not like canon father type thing, but more like they all have like these interpersonal relationships, and how would that play out? So
I can't wait to see this.
I know.
It should be good. What do we think of Alien though?
All right,
rank it, review
wrap
it
up.
Whatever the fuck we want to talk about.
Give me final thoughts and a number and rank it, Anthony.
Yeah, final thoughts. I mean, what more can you say, right? We went through all the great moments in it. Talked about, there's great acting, there's great cinematography. There's for 1979, it holds up. There's great tone. There's a grossness. There's these themes. What more can you say about the movie? It's created. I mean, it's the first, I would say. I don't maybe if I'm wrong, but the first sci-fi horror movie. Right? I don't know if people were making sci-fi horror movies at that time.
Yeah.
It was either one or the other. It's just it's a masterpiece. It's a 10. If there's any movie that's a 10 out of 10, that's that one. It's 10 out of 10.
God damn. All right.
The only point I dock away if I had to was someone get Sigourney Weaver some panties that fit.
Do you, for your personal preference, do you like this better than Aliens? Where you'd say, or are they both 10s?
In my opinion, they're both awesome, perfect films.
They are.
Aliens is infinitely more rewatchable.
Yeah.
But, as Ruggs and other people say, you don't get Aliens without Alien. Yeah. Also, they're just such different films, right? Like Alien is this like very moody, gross, like creepy horror film in space. Aliens is like, let's take the alien and turn it up to 11 and make it a war film in space. So they're both awesome. I prefer Aliens just on a rewatch, but this is one of the few occasions where while I like Aliens better, Alien is like, it's the film. Like it's the film that started us all. Like you can't the OG. I mean, it fucking created the alien. Like that's one of the most iconic creatures in all of cinema.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Ruggs.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a perfect film. It's got a couple of janky shots. It's got some stuff that I don't understand as far as time and, alien growing quickly. Things like those are small things I could ignore in favor of what it does do well. And one of the reasons I like Ridley Scott as a director, he's one of my favorite, and I'll say one of my top 5, right? Oh, wow. Because he was there at the beginning. Like if you have this in Blade Runner, right? In the 70s, like this shit is still being copied by people. Like people can't even get to this level of art direction now if they wanted to. Like the fact that he knew to make this kind of atmosphere using like mist and fog, and the lighting was very, very like very low lighting. Everything was directional. There's that shot of Dallas in the thing, and he's being lit by he's holding the light in his hand.
He's holding the light source that's lighting.
He's got a flame on the other, and it's giving him this, like everything's lit in a way that's natural. Doesn't seem processed. You can see like all of the stuff that they built, the sets that they built. They're using like animal bones in the aliens, and it's pink to jet black. It's just that ocean of that laser that with the mist. Like even the way like Mother turns on and all of the computers
all
and
the lights
the graphics,
and switches and buttons. It's so great.
I mean, that's all 70s, 60s stuff. Yeah, they're trying to legitimize that in this movie. Like, what are all these fucking light bright things doing in there? Nobody knows. But they're trying to legitimize it. It's like, oh, this is a computer and these are diodes or something.
Yeah.
So they tried to like make it make sense. And you have like even the personality of the Nostromo and like its caverns and all the winding tubes, and
it has its own personality.
There's a show called Farscape that has a living ship, and it's almost like the inspiration for a living ship. It's alive. It has its own character, the Nostromo.
I would say Nostromo is an iconic ship in all of sci-fi movies. Would you guys say?
Well, the interiors, yes. The exterior, I couldn't tell you what the Nostromo looked like, but the interiors, I know an interior shot of a Nostromo when I see one. So all of that stuff, this android, the milky android, that's like all of these iconic things. So even if it's not a perfect film, it's like you have to like commend all of its artistic prowess. The direction is great, except for that one shot that should have been cut away. But it's a 10. Absolutely, it is a classic. So I very rarely give anything a 10.
Yeah, you very rarely give a 10.
I mean, I got nothing to add. This is widely considered to be one of the greatest and most influential science fiction and horror films of all time. And I would absolutely agree. The influence, the birth of this franchise, it is, I would give it a 10 too. Even though I, just like you, Anthony, I love Aliens. I prefer Aliens more, but this thing started so many things, and the behind the scenes story, the fact that these were like untested people, how everything just fell together. The look of it.
It shouldn't have worked at all.
This easily could have been a B movie.
Yeah, it's a B movie.
Anybody. It is a B movie if you think about what happens. But he elevates it. And I don't know how Ridley he did one movie called The Duelist, and then comes in and everybody is just firing, and
like think about it.
It's fucking great.
This movie is so minimal, it could be a stage play.
Yeah. Oh, I think somebody's making a musical, Alien the Musical.
Don't do that.
This community theater is in 2019. I think it happened.
In
2019, some community theater did Alien the Musical.
But it's like Glenn Ross with an alien.
It's just
it's a stage play. It's people yelling at each other. That's all it is. Most of the time.
I mean, it's the slowness, the tension, the silence, and then the noises. It's just it's perfect. It's so good.
The wet sounds. There's a lot of wet sounds.
It's so moist. And I've always just loved Geiger's artwork and his aesthetic, having discovered him watching these movies.
And now the Geiger lives on in these movies.
Yeah.
All of these movies have now taken that DNA, and now it's been kind of passed down and reworked and reimagined. And so it does have staying power. It is something that not a lot of movies do. Can you say, like, Tim Burton's the only other person that I could think of that puts his artistic flair that's carried on through other films like that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And Geiger was just like the designer, like the art designer. But yeah, fucking great. Can't wait for Alien Romulus.